It's the return of Scaredy Carol. Maggie demonstrates her newly establishing mom powers, and let's face it, kidnap any of Rick's group, and it'll all end up on the kill floor. It's The Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 13, The Same Boat. Alright, spoilers ahead, just so you've been warned. We got a real tight episode today, really focusing on Maggie and Carol, two characters that don't get to spend a whole lot of time together, so this was kind of a nice moment to see how the two of them interact. And of course, it all takes place mostly in one location, at the old slaughterhouse. And we're really starting to see the effects of this world, of all of these actions starting to happen to Carol. And it really begins from the very beginning when Donnie pops out of the woods and Carol shoots him. And you see for the moment that she re-aims. And she does say later on, she could have killed him. But she doesn't. She wounds him. And yes, that might have been a mistake in the sense of it sort of propagates the whole remainder of the episode. But it's also demonstrating, I'm not sure how much maybe Morgan's conversation is starting to have with her, but certainly the ideals. We had last week where she was waking up in the middle of the night making her journal of everybody that she has killed. This is really starting to weigh on her. And this really gives a nice dichotomy between her and Paula, the leader of the Saviors group that is holding them. There's a lot of similarities really between those two characters. Both were moms. Both seem to have a bit of a meek existence prior to the apocalypse. Both have been changed. Both have become killers in their own right. The apocalypse has really affected them both very strongly. But while Paula has sort of let go of her humanity, as she says after her kills got in the double digits, she stopped counting. Carol has really kind of held on to that bit of humanity. And a lot of that probably has to do with the group that she was in. If you watch the Talking Dead afterwards, there was a nice little discussion that they had where Alicia Witt, who plays Paula, was asked, if she was with Rick's group, would that have made a difference? And yeah, I think that probably would have. This is sort of a demonstration of when situations get bad, the people that are surrounding you are really going to help dictate the direction that you go in. If you're in Rick's group, which is much more caring, understanding, supportive group, that's going to help nurture that. If you're in more of what the Saviors seem to be, which is a much more brutal organization, you're going to come up more in that direction. So I think the dichotomy between the two characters is just really strong. You can really feel that connection between the two of them. And I think that this really weighs a lot on Carol as she is seeing things. I think she is looking at Paula as the representation of what she could become or could have become. And that gets her to sort of weigh back, is this where I want to go? Do I want to keep doing this? As the line that she says to Paula at the end, when she asks, what is it that you're afraid of? I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of this moment where I have to kill you. That is a line that I'm going to have to keep crossing over. But really overall, a nice example of why you don't mess with anyone in Rick's group. We've got the return of Scaredy Carol in this, and Carol as that sort of, she could become anything that is needed in the situation. And for her, and for this, she just realizes to fall back into that meek, scared, creature that the Saviors can't even understand is still alive. And that really should have been their first warning. And I think that probably did hit Paula while she keeps kind of glancing and looking at her like, you shouldn't be alive at this stage in the game. I mean, really, most of your weak people have to have been killed off at then. And what you have left is a much more dangerous, much more knowledgeable group. I mean, even as the Saviors were pulling Maggie and Carol away, when they got up on the radio, they have full radio protocols. All right, we're going to Alpha here, Gamma has been situated, we've got this and that. They have full protocols that they are following, they have a full discussion, they have a full language that they are using. And this should illustrate a group that should be fearful of. I mean, much like Rick's group, which is a very well-oiled machine, very communicative, they instinctively back each other up. This is an insight into a group that is very similar to them. Even to the point where Chell, in her conversation with Maggie during the sort of interrogation, that great line of, "You know you're the bad guys, right?" Which is how Rick and them is looking at the saviors, and how we tend to, as audience, see the rest of the groups, is that these are all bad guys and our people are the good guys. But Rick's group did just go in and murder a bunch of people in their sleep. Not really good guy material, but it really more focuses the point that it all becomes from a sense of perspective. Everybody wants to be the good guy in their own group, and thus your antagonists are going to be the bad guys. So I think this is a nice look where Maggie has that moment of seeing, wow, we're the bad guys to someone else. That's kind of an interesting little viewpoint. But really just a fine episode of character work, of development. Never, ever, ever leave Carol and Maggie alone. Again, there are just so many wonderful sequences in this where as soon as they leave, Carol's all scaredy and Maggie's kind of in control. The minute they leave, the two of them, boom, let's see what we can grab. Let's see if we can get through this. Carol's grabbing the rosary, which she was able to use later on as an escape tool and also as a prop to sort of continue propagate her story of being this meek, scared, barely survived person. Now, apparently one thing you can guarantee when going on The Walking Dead, or really most any show, is the necessity to tell your life story to strangers. I understand that this is sort of necessary. This gives background character work. This gives feelings and motivations and things like that. From a storytelling standpoint, it's important. But it seemed really apparent to me of why are these people that are intending to kill you taking a moment out to tell their life story? Hey, this is where I came from with my boss and his coffee and the shit that he hated. And Chell's in there telling her little life story of bits and where she's coming from. Moles didn't have to. She was just choking on her cigarette. But it really seems to be sort of a constant thing. If you're an actor and you want to work, just get used to this. In pretty much every show you're going to see, start watching this and you'll notice. Every new character has to come in and tell some story from their life. This is sort of the trope of how things seem to work. And it did work very well here. I mean, we did get good stories, but it was something that kind of stood out for me. You're like, right in the middle of this episode is, what with the history lesson? What with the whole dialogue of who we are? We don't need to tell you this. We are capturing you. In our interrogation, we don't need to tell you who we are. Again, not a big thing, but just something I've kind of noticed that just sort of perpetuates. Every time we're going to see a new character, they're going to tell some sort of their story, even if they're dead 5 minutes later. But of course, eventually, the Saviors group realizes that they are in a bit of trouble. Again, people that are still alive at this point have to be smart. All the dumb people have been killed off. So when Paula notices that there's not much static on the radio when she's talking with Rick, she can figure out pretty quickly, that they are coming for her, that they don't have a lot of time. But of course, she's got backup coming as well. But all of these focuses allow them to lose focus on the ones that they should, on Maggie and Carol. Because again, as soon as they are given a moment, as soon as you leave Carol alone for a moment, she is out and she will waste all of you. But she doesn't want to kill. Again, she is kind of in this position. I don't want to have to do these things. I mean, even with Maul, she didn't go up and try and kill her. She didn't attack her. She got Maggie, and they set up the little walker trap with Donnie's dead body, who had pretty much already died from his injuries, as they had noticed when they opened up his wound. Dark blood coming out. He was already dead. He was already turning. But they use the walker bomb in order to kill Maul. Carol really trying to avoid making that step until you threaten Maggie. So remember, even at the beginning of the episode, Carol's focus was really protecting Maggie. Maggie has a baby there. Carol lost Sophia. She's a mom that has lost her kids. She does not want Maggie to have to go through that pain. So when they're escaping and Chell slices at Maggie and hits her stomach, it's not a deep cut, but that's all that it is. It's not a second later where Carol walks up and boom, she is gone. That is the one instinct that will override anything that's going on with Carol right now. She is going to protect her friend. She doesn't want to have to keep making this step. She says, I've killed 18 people, 20 now. She's keeping track of this. This is really starting to weigh on her. And you can see that when they call in for the remainder group and let them know that they're in the kill room. That should have been a hint. But again, a great sequence because you don't know what's going on. They're just hiding behind there and she just lights up the cigarette. And it's like, well, are we saying goodbye? But no, and as soon as the Savior's patrol said, why is the floor all wet? Knew it had to be the gas that they had seen, and sure enough, just flicks the cigarette in there, closes the door behind him, and it's a Savior barbecue. And that's it. So as soon as Rick and Glenn and them walk in to rescue him, they've already taken care of everybody. You know, obviously we get a great strong greeting between Glenn and Maggie, but it's the nice moment between Carol and Daryl also, where he asks her, are you okay? And she says, no. I mean, Daryl is the one person that she can really, I think, be honest with, that really kind of be her true self with. They have that connection. And yes, for the shippers, yes, it would be nice to see them together. And when Tobin stepped in and we had that little kiss, it's like, no, it's supposed to be Carol and Daryl. Maybe or not that will happen. But the reality is they have that strong, honest connection there, and I think that's going to be what's going to help Carol get through these moments, because Daryl can kill. Daryl doesn't have that problem, but he is still looking for the best of people, you know, at least up until recently with the run-in with Negan's group. Is he's really trying to find the best of people, and I think Carol is going to need that kind of balance, the two of them back and forth, moving forward to try and get through this. Now, speaking of Negan, that was kind of another interesting thing that was laid out throughout the episode, is we are all thinking that Negan is a person, but maybe Negan is a universal. It's that threat that it could be anyone, it could be anything, as they say. We are all Negan. And I think that's going to throw the group off, maybe put them in a false sense of security, because with this little outpost gone and all these and this remaining group dead, I think they're going to fall on the fact that we've taken care of it. We are done. You know, we have killed everybody, and we can just move forward there. And I think that's, again, really a mistake. My thought that this is just an outpost, I think even lays in with the communications that Paula had over the radio when she was calling in for backup. They sent 2 people. 2 people is not backup. Not in a group like this, and certainly that's not going to be all that they have. So there is, and we know as an audience that there is something more coming up, but from the viewpoint of the characters, I think that they can see that they're going to be lulled into that false sense of security. And as the remainder of the Saviors find out what has happened to this part of the group, however many there is left, I just got a bad feeling there's going to be this army show up on the door of Alexandria and just asking for heads, and things are going to go bad. There are three episodes left in this season. So we've got a lot of stuff that still has to happen. And it's probably going to get bloody. We're all going to be heartbroken, and I'm sure there's going to be tears that will be shed. But we're going to have to wait, at least until next week, to see where the next step of all of this is going to be. Please press like if you did enjoy my review. Feel free to subscribe. Join us every week. As soon as we finish up with Walking Dead, we're going to go right into Fear the Walking Dead. So our walker supply will continue to come for many, many weeks to come. Please come on back, join us. We will be talking about it. Press like. I already asked that. Press like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want. Comments in the section below. Always appreciated. I read everything. I reply to everything that I can. Your comments mean a lot to me, and it helps me sort of recreate and refocus what we're doing here to give you guys the best product possible. You can also catch me on Twitter. I'm at Darren Jakes. Otherwise, that's going to be it for the week. You guys all take care. I am D, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye.